You've been praying. You've been asking for help. You've been wondering why, despite all the effort, the breakthrough hasn't come, the situation hasn't shifted, and the doors remain closed. You may have even started to doubt whether God is listening, whether your cries matter, or whether you're simply being forgotten in a sea of unanswered prayers. But hear this clearly now. God has not turned his back on you. You are not being ignored. You are not being punished. What you are experiencing is the stillness that comes before alignment. The help you're waiting for is not being withheld in cruelty. It's being delayed for one divine reason: obedience. There is something you've been told to do, something you felt deep in your spirit. It may have come as a quiet prompting, a repeated message, a persistent pull in your heart that you've pushed aside or postponed, and now here you are, asking for help while bypassing the one thing that activates it. God is not unjust. God does not tease. But God does not tease. But God honors his own word. Help from heaven is often tied to steps on earth. What you are praying for might already be waiting on your obedience. That single act of surrender, that decision you've been avoiding, that move you know you're supposed to make but haven't yet, could be the very key to releasing everything you've been asking for. This moment isn't about shame. It's about awakening. It's about stepping into the truth with boldness and saying, "Enough delays. I will obey." Because the truth is, God cannot bless rebellion. God cannot assist disobedience. But the moment you shift, everything shifts. The power, the provision, the clarity, the answers. They are all already prepared. But heaven only releases what you're ready to carry, and readiness begins with obedience. This message isn't just a reminder, it's a call. You're not waiting on God, God is waiting on you. Obey what you already know and watch what happens next. God's help is not missing from your life, it is waiting. It is not that you've been abandoned or that your prayers have gone unheard. The truth is, divine help often stands behind a door labeled obedience. It is not withheld out of punishment, but out of principle. God does not move in confusion. God does not bless disorder. And when there is an instruction you've received, something you felt in your heart that you were meant to act on, yet you continue to delay it, you are not only postponing your progress, you are pausing heaven's intervention. You may be asking for clarity, direction, healing, provision, or breakthrough, but if the foundation of obedience is missing, what you're asking for cannot be fully sustained. God works in alignment. When you obey, you step into the flow of divine movement. It may be a small instruction, something you overlooked because it didn't feel significant, but often, it's the quiet whispers of direction that hold the greatest weight. That person you were supposed to forgive, that habit you were told to release, that leap of faith you've been postponing. Until you obey that one thing, the next will remain hidden, and help will feel distant, not because God has moved away, but because you've stepped out of alignment. This truth is not meant to bring fear but freedom, because obedience is the doorway. It is not meant to trap you but to unlock what's been waiting on the other side. The moment you begin to walk in what you already know, the moment you stop asking for new instructions and start following the ones already given, everything begins to change. Favor starts flowing. Peace begins settling in, and the help you've been waiting for arrives not because God finally heard you, but because you finally responded. You've asked for help, cried for change, begged for intervention, but still the silence continues. Deep inside, you've felt something pulling at you, a quiet knowing that you've been resisting. It's not that God is unwilling to help you. It's not that your cries haven't reached the heavens. It's that there's something in your life, some specific instruction, some divine nudge, that you've continually ignored or put off. And now, you find yourself in a loop, wondering why nothing is shifting. The truth is, you cannot bypass the instruction and still expect the blessing. God is intentional. Every instruction He gives carries purpose, even when it doesn't make sense to you in the moment. You may not understand why you were asked to let go of that relationship, walk away from that opportunity, stay silent instead of reacting, or humble yourself when pride is screaming for attention. But understand this: God's instructions are never random. They are the pathway to your growth, your protection, and your destiny. When you choose to ignore or delay them, you unknowingly delay the help you so desperately seek. Help doesn't arrive just because you want it. Help arrives when you're ready to carry it. And readiness is proven through obedience. You may have said, "I'll do it later," or "when I feel ready." But the longer you wait, the longer the next season waits for you. God is not going to force you forward. He's waiting on your decision. You cannot step into breakthrough while holding on to disobedience. You cannot walk in freedom while resisting instruction. This is your moment to choose alignment over comfort, to choose obedience over delay, because the miracle is not missing, it's just waiting for your yes. And once that yes is given, everything that has been held back will begin to move. There are moments in life when you feel as though you're standing at the edge of something great, yet nothing moves. You feel the weight of delay, confusion, and repeated cycles that seem unbreakable. You pray, fast, cry, and seek answers, but still feel stuck. What if the block is not the enemy, not timing, and not circumstance, but disobedience? Not disobedience in the dramatic sense, but the quiet kind. The decision to ignore what you know in your spirit you are supposed to do. The truth is, disobedience, even when subtle, is enough to block destiny. And God, in all divine wisdom and love, will not help you bypass the very thing meant to grow you. There are blessings already written in your name, doors with your fingerprint on them, appointments scheduled in your future that were never meant to be missed, but they are conditional. They are waiting on the alignment of your will with divine instruction. Every time you delay that obedience, every time you choose fear over faith, convenience over conviction, or comfort over growth, you push back the timing of what was already prepared for you. It's not punishment, it's principle. God does not release power into rebellion. God does not pour favor into a vessel turned the wrong way. The posture of obedience is what opens the flow of help, guidance, and breakthrough. You may not realize it, but your disobedience creates ripples. That one thing you refuse to release or act on may be the very dam holding back everything you're praying for. It creates noise in your spirit, blocks your clarity, and invites confusion into your path. And confusion is the enemy of purpose. When you live in disobedience, even slightly, you cloud the signal of direction. It's not that God has stopped speaking. It's that your refusal to move on what He's already said makes it harder to hear what's next. But here's the hope. Obedience can restore momentum instantly. The moment you choose to realign, to say yes to what you've been avoiding, the chains begin to break. The fog begins to lift. The things that were stuck start to move. It's not about earning help from God. It's about making space for it to flow freely. Disobedience blocks the flow. Obedience releases it. There is a version of your life that exists on the other side of obedience. A clearer path, a stronger purpose, a lighter heart. God is not trying to control you, God is trying to free you. But freedom requires surrender. And surrender shows itself in how quickly you obey what is whispered to your spirit. Even when it's hard, even when it doesn't make sense, even when it costs you something. Disobedience doesn't just delay destiny, it distorts your vision. You begin to misinterpret silence as abandonment. You start to doubt your path, you question your worth. But if you trace it back, you'll often find that clarity left when obedience stopped. This isn't about blame, it's about breakthrough. You're not too far gone. You haven't missed your moment. All it takes is one decision to return, to realign, to surrender again. That thing you keep ignoring. It's not small. It's the turning point. And once you obey, the divine help you've been waiting for will meet you with force. What was closed will open. What was heavy will lift. What was missing will arrive, and you'll finally understand. God never abandoned you. He was waiting for you to obey. You may think you're obeying because you've done some of what was asked. Maybe you let go of that person. Maybe you took the first step toward change. Maybe you started what God placed in your heart. But deep down, you know you didn't follow through all the way. You did the part that was comfortable. You obeyed where it was convenient. But God doesn't respond to halfway obedience. Partial obedience is still disobedience. And that's why the help hasn't come like you expected. Because God sees the whole picture, not just the parts we allow Him to see. He's not moved by performance, He's moved by surrender. And surrender is all or nothing. Doing just enough to feel spiritual, or just enough to appear obedient, is not the same as fully yielding to what's been asked of you. You can't trick your way into alignment. You can't selectively obey and still expect full results. It doesn't work that way. God isn't calling you to comfort. He's calling you to transformation. And transformation requires that you step into the fire of obedience completely. Not just with your hands, but with your heart. Not just with your actions, but with your attitude. Because God doesn't just want the task done, He wants it done with faith, with trust, and with honor. If you've only obeyed 80%, the 20% you're holding back could be the very thing blocking your help. That little hesitation, that quiet resistance, that part of you that's still clinging to the old way. It matters. It's not small. It's the peace God is waiting for, and the moment you release it, the shift begins, the clarity returns, the pressure lifts, the breakthrough flows. Full obedience activates full help. This is not punishment, it's alignment. It's not about perfection, it's about surrender. If you want to see everything God has for you, you can't hold anything back. Give Him the rest. Give Him all. That's where help is waiting. You've asked for help, but have you honored the one you're asking it from? Obedience isn't just about rules, it's about honor. It's about recognizing that when God speaks, it's not a suggestion, it's an invitation to align your life with power, protection, and purpose. When you obey, you show trust. When you submit, you show reverence. And that posture of humility is what unlocks divine assistance. Help doesn't come to those who demand it in pride. Help comes to those who position themselves in humility, who understand that God's way isn't one of control, but of covering. God wants to help you, but He won't force His hand where He's not been honored. So many times people want a miracle but not the process. They want deliverance but not discipline. But the help of God is not a shortcut. It's a system of faith, surrender, and obedience. If your heart is still filled with rebellion, stubbornness, or pride, it creates a wall between you and the very help you're asking for. Not because God is punishing you, but because pride rejects what only humility can receive. God pour His presence into a heart that's too full of self. He helps those who bow low, not because they are weak, but because they are wise enough to trust Him more than their own understanding. Obedience is honor in action. It's saying, I may not see the full picture, but I trust the one who does. It's choosing faith over familiarity. It's trusting that what God asks you to release is never greater than what He plans to give. When you obey from a place of honor, you make room for the help you've been asking for, and in that space, miracles happen. Provision appears, peace floods in. You don't need to fight for what's already yours, you just need to surrender for it. God is not holding back His help. He's simply waiting for your honor to make a place for it. You've been crying out for help, searching for breakthrough, and wondering why things haven't shifted. You've questioned your path, doubted your prayers, and felt like heaven was silent. But now you see, God has not been ignoring you. God has not turned away from you. What has been missing is not the help, but the obedience that opens the way for it to reach you. This entire time, what you were waiting for was actually waiting for you to trust fully, waiting for you to surrender completely, waiting for you to honor the voice that has been gently prompting you to take that step, release that burden, forgive that wound, or walk away from what no longer belongs in your life. God's help flows through alignment. It is not delayed out of punishment, but out of purpose. There is something you've been asked to do, and it may seem small, inconvenient, or even confusing. But it is the very key to the next chapter of your life. Your obedience is not about control. It is about unlocking everything that has been stored up for you. Every instruction you've received, every nudge in your spirit, every uncomfortable truth you've tried to push aside has been a gift in disguise, a roadmap, a divine signal pointing you toward the breakthrough you've been asking for. And now it's clear. Partial obedience won't work. Delayed obedience won't work. Selective obedience won't work. God is calling you to full surrender, not just in action but in your heart. Because the help, the healing, the breakthrough, it all flows from a heart that chooses to obey even when it's hard, even when it doesn't make sense. You are not too late. You are not disqualified. Everything can change the moment you say yes, the moment you stop resisting and start moving. The moment you stop waiting on God and realize that God is waiting on you. So go back to what you were told. Go back to that instruction. Pick up what you dropped. Release what you're still holding. Forgive who you said you never would. Take the step you've been avoiding and watch what happens. The moment your obedience is complete, the help will come. Not slowly, but swiftly. Not partially, but fully. Because when you move in obedience, you walk in alignment. And when you walk in alignment, nothing can stop what God has already prepared for you.